Thank you very much for being here. I'll be glad to try to answer your questions. Sir?
Hi, Secretary Ross, BBN Television, Canada. Two questions on NAFTA. Number one, knowing the timeline with various elections, whether it's in Mexico, the midterms, or in Canada, what are the consequences of being unable to reach a deal with NAFTA by this year's end?
That's a good question. It certainly is the case. You have a presidential election in Mexico next July. You have the midterm elections here also next fall. And TPA, the Trade Promotion Authority itself, expires here in July of 2018. So there are plenty of reasons to try to get this done quickly. In an ideal world, we'd try to get it done by the end of this calendar year. That would be a record speed for any big trade negotiation. So I don't know whether we'll be able to do that, but we are certainly mindful of the calendar and the fact that the calendar is fundamentally not our friend.
And speaking with Canadian officials as well, they're sensing some confusion as to who's in charge of the NAFTA file, whether it be you or Mr. Lighthizer. I'm wondering who's in charge.
Well, as we've explained before, Mr. Lighthizer has statutory authority as the U.S. trade rep, but we all feel that this is a sufficiently complicated process that we're going to bring as many intellectual resources to bear on it as we can.
Thank you.
Yes, Adam B. Sudi with Politico.
Please speak up.
Adam B. Sudi with Politico. I had a question about the timeline on the steel and aluminum investigations. What's sort of the timeline for how long? I mean, the reports would come out, then how long would it be until we see action by the president? And is there any concern that what could be decided might not hold up to legal scrutiny, to WTO action? Are you looking at reaching a conclusion that could, keeping those legal sort of pitfalls in mind on a final deal? And are Canada and Mexico being viewed as possible?
Well, that's a whole lot of questions. I don't know if anybody else will have any time to ask anything, but I'll try to answer them. In terms of the legal pitfalls, we assume that if there's any affirmative action that comes out of either one, there probably will be either a domestic legal challenge and or a WTO challenge. So we obviously have that very much in mind. As to when the reports will come out, the President has announced that they will both be supposed to come out during the month of June, so that's the schedule that we will be on. This coming Thursday, we have some public hearings on the aluminum process. We already had the public hearings on the steel one, and so logically the steel one will come out first, and then the aluminum one will come out a little bit later. I think those were the questions that you had.
Canada and Mexico, is there a sense that they could be carved out or go up with the investigation from any action?
Well, since we haven't rendered our report yet, it's a little premature to say exactly what will be in and what will be outside of either one.
Yeah, Peter Sung with Capital Intel BBN. Would you welcome direct Chinese investment in U.S. steel manufacturing, either plants in Ohio, there are a few companies, would you welcome that kind? We have a lot of Chinese investors here. Do they buy U.S. steel companies?
I know there are a lot of Chinese investors here. I haven't heard which exact industries any of them might be interested in, but we have a whole CFIUS process here for approving foreign investment.
About the CFIUS,
Can you speak up?
Joy from Caixin Media. About the CFIUS, you just mentioned, recently reports said that there are some reform proposals going on, and there's, I think Secretary Mnuchin, he wants to restrict a lot of Chinese investment. So I was wondering, are you aware of these proposals? Should Chinese investors view this as a symbol of the future restriction on Chinese investment?
Well, as I say, the only limitation in a formal sense that the U.S. has is the CFIUS process. That's an interagency activity chaired by Treasury, Commerce is also a participant in it, and I believe Department of Defense as well. Other than that, there are no formal restrictions in the United States on foreign investment from anywhere.
And Secretary, a follow-up to that. There are reports that they are looking to expand the CFIUS restrictions into high-tech, into artificial intelligence. Can you comment on that?
Well, there has been a lot of investment activity by China and by other countries in the high-tech space. And where national defense interests are an issue, there have been some proposals turned down. I haven't seen the exact proposed congressional legislation, so I don't really have any comment on it as such.